Thank the force, we are live. It's Thursday. I almost said Saturday. I almost said it's live Saturday. Welcome to Saturday night. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. It's Thursday night. Star Wars Isn't live here. This is not SNL. I am going to deliver an opening monologue, but it's not going to feature any celebrity guests. Although I must say, before we really get cranking here, that we got some fun Ryan Johnson news to share in a second from one of our own. But we're gonna be talking about 13 years later, the Disney acquisition, because it's a couple weeks ago, and we had, was it last week, I believe, that we had the anniversary. It was last week before we had the anniversary of Disney taking over Star Wars. We're gonna kind of reflect on what that looks like for a little while, and then of course we're going to be talking about Star Wars Visions, and we have a fun take on that we're going to deliver that will be a little more unique, mostly because of me and my lack of attention to Star Wars over the last week. That's why we're doing that. But I'm excited. My name is Tyler. Welcome in. Go ahead and that like and subscribe button if you can. And as always, welcome in. We're going to be talking about Star Wars for the next hour. Luke, Tom are joining me this evening. The trio is together, and I am excited to see both of you. But how are we doing? Luke, I'll start with you because I'll have an intro for Tom that I'm ready for.
Oh yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I do need to preface this episode with I'm on a backup laptop with no charger, and it's not a prediction. I'm telling you it will happen. Probably in like 30 minutes. I might just wink out of existence here, but I'll try to make the most of the time that I have with you all tonight. I will try to also find the charger for this laptop in the coming week.
In the coming week is crazy. So, exciting thing is that Ryan Johnson, this is a segue into Tom here. So, Ryan Johnson, at Star Wars Internet, you see that we have this article about Ryan Johnson talks about how, making The Last Jedi as Star Wars has been the most rewarding, experience of his career because of all of the fans that, exist. And Tom, ran into Ryan Johnson on the streets of New York like 3 days ago, 2 days ago. No, right? Was this yesterday? Tuesday, right? Yeah. So he ran into Ryan Johnson on the streets of New York on Tuesday. And Tom's short conversation with Ryan Johnson moved him so much that we have a whole article about, how Ryan Johnson, it was the fans that have made it worth it. And I believe that single-handedly, Tom has changed Ryan Johnson's perspective on everything. He has completely forgotten about anyone that may have had a problem with The Last Jedi. He talked with Tom for 5 minutes, and that's all
he's doing that new trilogy.
Yeah, and Tom got the inside scoop from Ryan Johnson himself that he starts filming tomorrow. Like, production begins tomorrow on Ryan Johnson, the Old Republic version. So, Tom, please go ahead and share us this major scoop that you got from Ryan on the street.
It was last minute. There was a sneak preview of Wake Up Dead Man, which is the new Knives Out film in New York City. And there was a Q&A. Unfortunately, the Q&A sold out immediately, so I couldn't make it to that. But I got to go to the screening that he introduced the film. And so I was there early, I was there by myself and made some friends on the line. We were talking, and one of the guys I met was saying, I wonder if he's going to sign any, he had some memorabilia he wanted Ryan Johnson to sign. I said, well, Ryan seems to be a really nice guy. He's very kind to the fans usually. As we're talking, my friends, or the guy I was talking to was like, is that him right over there? 10 feet away from us, I look over. He's standing there at a light with his wife, I assume, looking across the street, probably headed off to dinner. And of course, we stopped him. And in my mind, I pictured what I would tell him if I ever met him on the street like this. And all that went out the window because I was completely starstruck. And I sounded like Chris Farley on SNL when he met Paul McCartney and was like, remember when you were with the Beatles? That was awesome. So I hope anything I said was coherent, but I told him I was a big fan of his work and I was so excited for the movie. And he was so gracious and kind. And it's amazing to think that this guy, he looks like he would be your boss if you worked at a bank, you know, in nice suit. He just looks like a very clean cut guy. Such an amazing artist. So my cat's blocking my light now.
I can see
It's like an eclipse in here.
your loth cat.
It's Phoebe.
Your loft cat heard
Phoebe!
about Ryan Johnson and was ready to come. She's like, oh my
So,
gosh, I gotta come here.
Long story short, saw him, very nice man. I spent just a few minutes talking to him, and at that point I was going to take a picture or a selfie. I wanted to get it, and at that point the people that were online kind of crowded around him, so he actually was able, he had to kind of scoot and get to dinner, I guess. But yeah, it was amazing. And by the way, if you are a fan of Knives Out, the new movie is amazing. So if you are into those movies, I think you'll really enjoy it. It comes out next month, I think, on Netflix. And a limited theatrical release, I think, around Thanksgiving week. But it was, I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's just as good as the other movies, and just amazing. So yeah, it was. I was completely starstruck, and this is what usually happens when I meet celebrities on the street.
Tom, me just casually being like, yeah, when I meet celebrities on the street, this is usually what happens. Like
when you're in
next
New York,
week,
you never know who you're gonna run into. I ran into Sarah Bareilles once with my daughter, and my daughter, I just she's at that age where I embarrass with everything, and I'm just like, oh wow, it's like, so I'm not good in those situations. I need to really step up my game.
Manslayer says, did you tell him that the Thai silencer is freaking awesome?
If I had 5 more minutes, I definitely would have brought it up.
Actually, he led with that. He said, Ryan, the Thai silencer! Stop it, the Thai silencer! We must talk about the Thai silencer right now! That would be, oh my gosh. That would actually be, so this is, Luke, I have some, Luke, if you ran into, oh my gosh, like David Prince or whatever, like the voice of Kanan Jarrus on the street, or whatever, like you ran like
Freddie Prinze Jr.
or Freddie Prinze Jr. What did I say?
David Prince.
I don't know. David Prince.
Oh, David Prince. Who is that?
I thought you were making.
I don't know. David Prince.
I was just making up someone. So
well, I understand you on a telepathic level.
If you ran into Freddie Prinze Jr., what would you like to say? And what would you actually say?
What would I like to say? I would say, how was your experience ending Rebels after spending 4 years being Kanan Jarrus? How hard was it to put it down? But maybe pick it back up again in like Bad Batch. What was your experience like at the end, where all things come to a conclusion? Kanan has his end. Like, what was that like for you in the booth? And then what I'd actually say is like, how was the Winkathu job? Did that one go well?
No.
Where were you when I needed you?
You'd be like, doom. That's all you say.
Doom.
Oh my gosh, we're insane. But that's awesome, Tom. I'm so glad you got that experience. It's like I can't imagine much running into Ryan Johnson on the street like that is crazy. And so it was funny too, because Tom texted me. We talked on the phone for a little bit about it, Luke. And then he's like, I was like, I'm at peace though. I missed the Q&A because I got to meet Ryan Johnson on the street. And then I get a text from Tom 30 minutes later. And he goes, I'm so freaking mad. I missed that Q&A just now. Turns out Daniel Craig showed up. Yes. And I'm like, it was so funny because he was mad. Like, I'm at peace with it. I got to meet Ryan. 30 minutes later, this sucks. Daniel Craig was there.
No longer at peace.
Yeah. Oh. And they were giving out posters too. Like I missed all that, but
it's getting worse all the time.
I guess the theater wanted to capitalize, so they had 2 screenings, and then the second one was just Ryan, since you're here, just introduce the movie, and but it was fun. It was a blast. I'm gonna it's a theater in Manhattan. They have a lot of stuff that a lot of special things. So now I know I'm on the mailing list. So hopefully, if something opens up, I'll be more prepared to jump at the first batch of tickets.
Well, the good thing is that you met Ryan Johnson, and none of us can say that. So
No.
you have that on us for what I would assume to be the rest of our lives, because I don't anticipate running into Ryan Johnson anytime soon.
I
At
was gonna FaceTime
middle
you too,
school.
Tyler. I should have done that.
That would have been crazy.
It
I
was
would have
so
lost it.
yeah, it was so crazy. It was like so quick that
I
I
would have
had.
been. It was like when I saw like Kurt Warner, like NFL Hall of Fame quarterback, and I saw him sitting at a basketball game because he went to Northern Iowa, and it was a Northern Iowa March Madness game, and I looked across, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Kurt Warner just sitting over there. And so at halftime, like I FaceTime one of my good buddies who was a big Rams fan and loves Kurt Warner, and I just FaceTimed him, and he's like, aren't you at the game? I was like, hey, you want to meet Kurt Warner like right now? And he goes, what? And then I said, I just handed him the phone. And then Kurt's like, hi, Matt, how's it
Oh
going?
wow,
And
that's
and what's funny is I remember Matt just like, he's like, ha, ha. Like, he does not know what to say. It was
that's
so
pretty cool, man.
it was so funny. And then he had such a good time that Northern Iowa won. And so Matt bought a ticket to the next game, Northern Iowa game, so he could go walk down and meet Kurt Warner so he can get a picture with Kurt Warner. It was so funny. Oh, man. So let's get into it a little bit, shall we? We have 13, it's crazy. It's been 13 years since Disney acquired Star Wars. And there are so many projects that have come out since, so many fake projects that have been circulating, so many projects that were real that never materialized that they told us about, and then all the ones we're learning about now that they never told us about. But with all the bad, there's also a lot of good. But it has been an insane 13 years. But before we even begin to dive into what that, the current state of reflecting on 13 years is, let's go all the way back to when that news dropped. Like, do you guys have like a very, vivid memory of where you were like when that happened? Like, is there anything that you can like remember clearly from that time? I'll go with Tom. I want to hear from you first, because Luke and I were both in high school, so your perspective is going to be quite different than ours on this one.
Yeah, it's so funny. And I think I did mention this once before. It's so crazy because it was October 30th, I believe. October 29th was Hurricane Sandy that hit New York really hard.
Oh,
wow. My house was kind of flooded. My house was flooded.
Oh
So
my God.
I was staying with family and friends. At that point, I was staying with friends, my wife, myself, and my two daughters. And we went to my brother-in-law's house, and he said, "Oh, did you hear the news that Disney bought Lucasfilm?" So I was like, "Oh, what?" Like, so I'll never forget that. Like, just getting that. However, he's not really a big, he's like kind of casual fan. He's not really that into it. I did not know that I figured, I says, well, I guess that kind of makes sense because, they have so much in, already Disney did a lot of stuff with Lucasfilm at like Disneyland and stuff, this is before Galaxy's Edge, of course, but they had like Star Tours and all that. So I says, I guess it makes sense. It was very, I was surprised by the news. I said, that's really cool. But when I got back to where we were staying, the friend's house we were staying at, they had lost power. So I had no power. I got a text, but my texts were coming in sporadically. My brother's like, did you hear they're making episode 7? And I could not get online. I had a hotspot, but I was trying to get online to watch that video that they released with George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy, I guess, at the time, when they were talking about that and it was like, so to me, it was like, I didn't know if it was true or not. Like, is this really going to happen? So I'll never forget that, trying and like watching it in the old days. You guys might be a little young to remember dial-up internet, but it would be like, it would load half the video and it would be like just buffering and waiting. So I'll never forget that, being on the edge of my seat, trying to get the information about if they were making new movies. So yeah, it was an amazing time. But like, that's how I found Star Wars Newsnet. It was like one of the first sites, I think, that I recall that had, I think at that point it was called Episode 7 News or something along those lines. And I would follow it religiously every day, seeing, as things went on with the progression of that. But yeah, so I'll never forget that time. It's so like ingrained in my head.
It's wild to think how long ago that was, but it also feels like yesterday. Luke, you and I probably have similar stories, but I'm curious where they differ, because you have Tom, who's literally going through a natural disaster, one of the worst possible things. Your house is flooded. There's a hurricane that is hitting your city and state incredibly hard, and he's just trying to get internet access to this. Meanwhile, I don't think there were any hurricanes in Indiana at the time.
No, there actually weren't. Weird enough. I did look it up while you were giving your story, Tom, and it was indeed, I can confirm, October 30th, 2012. And I got to say, so that would have been at the beginning of my sophomore year of high school. And I got to say, sophomore year of high school, I was not a Star Wars fan at that point. Like, I liked the movies as a kid and had really kind of like grown out of them. On that day, I didn't hear a word. It wasn't until probably, like, Tyler, I do think there's probably more difference between us than you would realize back then. Like, I didn't even catch on this until I was like hearing that episode 7 was like gonna come out like later this year, 2015. So I was like, okay, like, I liked Star Wars as a kid. I think I would go see that. And they like released the new Battlefront 1 2015 version. I was like, I play some video games here and there. Like, I'll buy that. I'll pick that up. I'll play it around. So like, I was pretty late to the game.
Okay.
So honestly, like, it was not something that rocked my world. But if something like this happened again, it's got my full focus. I am such a different fan. I'm such much more of a fan now than I was back then. So it's really funny to look back on my own story and be like, it didn't affect me at all. I didn't care. I didn't care at all. And now it's extremely important to me. So yeah.
So we have wildly different stories. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought we would. So I do not remember where I was or what was going on when the news dropped. It was the day before my mother's birthday. So it was the day before Halloween, and I'm in high school. So I'm sure I was doing something, and we had something for my mom. However, this is how different I am now. Now I'm like making TikTok videos. I'm on social media. I do our timeline shows. I'm in the weeds of all things Star Wars, chronically online Star Wars, like all of the little news and nuggets. I had no social media when I was in high school until I was like a senior. I got a Twitter account just because I got tired of getting sports updates from my friends, and I did not know about them first. I just at that point I just got tired of it. And so like I learned about it just from like watching the news and hearing about it like on like a news thing, and then going online on my phone, and you kind of start seeing some things circulating and some people are talking about it. But in terms of Star Wars, like, oh, that's cool. No, I was obsessed because I have been reading, I grew up loving Star Wars. I had every single toy imaginable. Like, I'm always asking for toys. I had the Star Wars backpacks. I still have my Attack of the Clones backpack that I wore to like first grade. It is in my car right now. I've mentioned that before. Awesome. It is in my car right now, and it has jumper cables and a first aid kit. Like, that is my emergency backpack. Yeah. It does not even unzip all the way anymore because it's like just so destroyed, but I will never get rid of that backpack, right? And so like all of these things, Star Wars, I have, at this point, I'm in high school. Like, I have been reading like the new Jedi Order books. I have read all of the Rogue Squadron books. Like, I've been reading all of these like different, I've read Heir to the Empire, like these legend stories, right? And I've been super into those. I have played Star Wars Battlefront 2, the OG like Battlefront 2, more hours than I did homework in high school and middle school combined at this point. So I am fully entrenched. I remember seeing that immediately, and my dad, like once I saw it, my dad and I was talking to my dad, and we instantly are like theorizing, what this is going to be. Like, what is it going to be about? And like every single like day, I was like, Tom, I'm like, I'm trying to get as much information as I can. I remember exactly where I was when we found out the title, The Force Awakens. Like that was kind of like in 2015. I kind of started having Twitter 2014, 15. And so I'm following all the places that are talking Star Wars. And I will like that first the teaser trailer with the Falcon and the Chewie We're Home. Like we've talked about that trailer so many times.
Oh
And
man, my
it is just
favorite.
there is nothing that has ever come close to reaching that level of excitement for me in like anything. Like non Oklahoma City Thunder winning the NBA championship or Tom Brady coming back down 28-3 against the Falcons related. That's the only thing. But that trailer thing, I could just go back to it every time, and you get that same feeling in your chest every time you watch it, right? And I was going through everything. I remember being at one of the premieres for that movie, and it was what they put all 6 episodes in theaters before the 7th. Like I went to go do that with my friend Matt, who ironically I mentioned earlier on this very pod. And we went and we did that. We sat next to someone who literally quit their job because he said my boss wouldn't give me the day off for Star Wars. So I said I quit. And I was like, that's an interesting business decision, my guy. He was a little out there. We were a little worried sitting next to him at times because he was a little interesting. But anyway, so it has always been like integral to who I am as a person, my relationships with like family members and friends. I had some friends at the time that were super into Star Wars. We'd talk about it, we'd theorize about it. And then, I saw that movie, The Force Awakens. That was the first movie I ever saw more than twice in a theater. Before then, I had seen The Dark Knight a couple times. My dad and I saw that a couple times. And there was a Star Trek movie or two my dad had seen, and I went to go see a couple times. But like when Force Awakens come out, like I had graduated from, high school at that point. So I got a lot more freedom now. You're in high school, you have that like freedom. Now I'm in college, I got like unlimited freedom, right? And I saw that movie 7 times in theaters, like, and then
7 for number
when
7.
it came out, like I saw it 7 times. And then because of some of the other screenings that have taken place in theaters since then, I saw it again with our friend Casey Luke when The Rise of Skywalker came out, and I did the marathon again, this time with the 8 previous episodes. And so I've seen that movie in theaters almost 10 times probably at this point, like between all the different screenings of it that have come out over various
So
moments.
far.
So I'm still got fingers crossed for a surprise screening in December for the 10-year, but
They're gonna do it.
now maybe they'll still do it. I don't think so, but anyway, it is one of those moments where I don't remember exactly where I was, but I remember how excited I was when I saw it, and like immediately afterwards, it was just a continuous stream of like Tom's like just refresh the screen for more Star Wars news.
Yeah. Totally. And it was it was a wonderful time, the hype around everything. And it was, my kids really weren't into it until like I showed them the Force Awakens trailer, and they're like, oh, I want to check this out now. And that's when that was their first, well, my daughter, her first movie was Force Awakens. And then my youngest, it was Rogue One in the theaters. And, so yeah, that time was really amazing. But like when you talk about 13 years, it's amazing to think, because I grew up I was a child during the original trilogy. You guys, I guess, grew up watching the prequel films. I guess when you were young. The amount of content we've gotten in the last 13 years, more so, it totally eclipses, I guess, what we got in the previous, we're almost at 50 years of Star Wars, but like this last 13 years has been so content rich. The highs, the maybe not so highs, the lows, and everything in between. We've seen a lot of it. So
and think about how much change there's been in the industry just since when they bought Star Wars, right?
It's
like
crazy to think about.
When they bought Star Wars and people are watching Netflix at that time. Like I'm pretty sure in 2013, I don't remember exactly when it fully switched, but people are still like buying the Netflix DVDs or like, you rent Netflix. like you would rent Battlestar Galactica season 1, like episodes 1 through 8, and you'd watch them, and you'd send the disc back to Netflix, and they would send you the next one. You'd have your little like queue that you would have, and you'd have like the next one up. Whenever it was time, they'd send DVDs, and then when they had Star Wars, and it was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get this trilogy. They got the Obi-Wan movie, they got this like Boba Fett movie, they got this movie planned, Han Solo movie planned. Like there's so many different movies planned, and then just the like even when Force Awakens came out, like the concept of Star Wars streaming and like Star Wars shows like in live action really wasn't a big concept. Like that wasn't something I don't think we were even remotely talking about until like 17, like when they started like talking about this, like the Mandalorian, I believe. And again, I wasn't super even aware of those things at the time. Like I was so invested in what episode 8 was going to be, or in Rogue One, like what's Rogue One going to be. It was just movies. And then now we're sitting here, we think 2015, we had 4 movies, like five movies in 4 years, essentially, because we had from 2015 to 19, we had the 3 movies, the 3 saga films, and then the 2 standalones. And now we have 4 years, 5 movies, and now we're sitting here, 6 years basically, and with none. And it's just wild to think, because of how reactionary Disney is to things, but how much the industry's changing and how maybe we're shifting back. But like Tom said, there's been so much content. Do you guys think there has been too much Star Wars content? And that's a loaded question, because as major Star Wars fans, every time there's Star Wars content, like I'm so excited that it's out there, even if I'm not rushing, to go see all of it. But is maybe that part of the problem? Like I need to be rushing to go see everything Star Wars because of what the magnitude of a Star Wars project should be.
Tom, what do you think? Too much Star Wars?
One thing I will say, I feel like there can't be too much Star Wars. It's like too much ice cream or too much. However, what was the point I was trying to make? I think I got to a point at some point saying, what else can they do? Because I felt like we were kind of sticking to certain eras, and I was not so much tired of it. Anything they put out, I have to say. Like I got a little tired with some of the Marvel content, just because things were going a little bit like, I guess it was just so many threads here and there. But with Star Wars, it's like I could follow it. I knew enough about it that I could. So I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd push back against too much content. I think what was happening was that we weren't, this is before Andor, we weren't seeing, I guess, I would always question, what else can they do? Like, even when I was hearing stuff about the Rey movie, about training new students, I'm like, how can they do, I had a fear that I would get to a point where there'd be too, like, I would still watch it, I would still be there opening day, but what could they really do to push things forward? And then, of course, Andor, and even taking an era that people said has been so done or overdone and doing something completely new. So it's difficult. I feel like how can I say? Some things maybe came out before they were ready, as far as like, they should have left them in the oven a little bit longer. But I think that overall, I think it was a good mix. You could see, if you look at the projects and you just put them up, don't even talk about how you feel about them, but just look at the different projects. It looks like they were trying to do a lot of different things. Like you see, even with the Acolyte, how a lot of people, a lot of fans, it's gotten a lot of backlash, but they were trying to do some different things. It gets to a point where, but also, not just that, but there is also a tipping point where it becomes a little less special. Like when a Star Wars movie came out, it was a huge event. That's
where I'm at.
Yeah, I felt like with some of them, and it's funny because when Rogue One was coming out, I remember saying, I'm really invested in the saga films. I really want to see Episode 8. I said, I was excited about Rogue One. Of course, when I saw the movie, I was blown away by it. But there are some stories like Solo. I liked Solo too. I thought it was a good movie. But like, I feel that way about Mandalorian and Grogu. Like, I don't know if they maybe should have done a season 4, or are they making the right move by going to theaters with it? I mean, I'm excited that a movie's coming out, but I'm kind of interested to see what they do with Starfighter, to be honest with you. I guess because it's a whole new unexplored era. But yeah, so I have mixed feelings. I'm kind of thinking out loud a little bit. I'm sorry if it's
a very, very intense response to that. But Luke, I want to throw it to you first.
Goodness, Tyler. I do think the answer, like, this is going to be Captain Obvious, but like, it super depends on who you ask. Because for me, is there too much Star Wars? Has it been diluted? I don't think so, but I love Star Wars so much. Like, I really don't think I'll ever get to a point where I think myself, there's just too much for me. Like, I'll eat it all up, and I will like all of it to varying degrees. But even someone as myself, over the past couple years, where things have like kind of started to taper down in 2024 and this year, it gives you a moment to like reflect back on. I would always hear 2022 regarded as like this golden year of Star Wars. I think there were 3 shows that aired, not necessarily released, but aired during that. There were there's always been an animation. There wasn't a movie, but like, there's just been a lot going on for the past couple of years. And I do know that, Tom, you brought it up too, like, Marvel's had this kind of issue too, where they just like pump it out. And if I talk to coworkers at work, like, that's kind of my finger on the pulse of like the average fan. I know I'm not an average fan. I'm way too deep in this stuff. And they'll be like, how many shows are there for like Star Wars? Do they have shows now, right? And I'm like, yeah. And I do have one buddy who I'm like, Brian, did you see Skeleton Crew? Did you know that was a show? He's like, yeah, actually I watched all of that. It was pretty good. And I'm like, really? I'm kind of surprised by that. I didn't even know that most people knew that was even out, let alone watched it. So it's gotten to this point where I kind of expect people to not have kept up with it, which you can't. Like, it was different in 2019, 2020, when you could talk to a random person and say, did you catch that new Mandalorian episode? And they'd be like, yeah, didn't really watch much of Star Wars before that, but I tuned in for that. That was crazy how those big spiders came down. Like, they know what they're talking about. And now, did you watch The Acolyte? I'll tell, I've got a big Star Wars fan who goes to my church, and I'll ask him about Star Wars and stuff. And he's someone who'll be like, I couldn't get through episode 2 of The Acolyte. Just couldn't do it. Really didn't like it. And he's someone who, can't get enough Star Wars. He's a cosplayer and stuff. So like, it's just started to really like really branch out. There's enough Star Wars for everybody to have their own like silo, and they don't feel like they need to watch all of it, even though they're a huge fan, which I think is kind of a blessing to people. Like, you can find your own niche, your own silo, like I said. So there's a lot, and if you want to dive in, there's going to be plenty for you to see and dive down into, and also spread wide. I think there's just a lot of breadth to Star Wars now that didn't used to be there.
Well, I'll be honest. I am someone who, and Luke knows this because of how long that we have been friends. Shout out to Ann. Luke knows this because we've been friends for so long. And Tom, you know this just from the times of the last several months that we've been talking about Star Wars and talking about life. I am someone who takes a great amount of joy in the build up to things. Like, I am like, we're 197 days away from the Mandalorian and Grogu. Like, I'm very much aware of this. I also am someone who is getting up at 3 a.m. to watch the Mandalorian and Grogu Mandalorian episodes or Bad Batch episodes before I go to work, because I don't want to take the chance of getting spoiled. So I'm someone who gets super excited for, all things Star Wars, right? And I find myself going to a place of I wish we had less in terms of the shows. I think that it might be better for Star Wars to pick and choose spots instead of always trying to be in that streaming mode. However, I think if we had a movie in the last 6 years, I wouldn't feel that way because I think that the future of Star Wars is making these films feel magical, making these films feel special because there was such a long gap between the first three and the second three, and then another long gap between the second three and the third three. And you ask pretty much that's the beauty of Star Wars, right? Like you ask people of almost any generation, about Star Wars, they're going to have a lot of people are going to have some sort of story to tell about Star Wars in some way it affected them. And I don't want to get to a point where when I mention something to someone about Star Wars and they're like, yeah, it's just it's okay. Like, it exists. Like, oh yeah, there's all that stuff out there now. And I don't want Star Wars to get to that point. And because this Star Wars, and this is something that makes it completely different from Marvel, and this is a hot take for me. Marvel is like the MCU, right? The MCU doesn't even belong in the same breath or conversation with Star Wars in terms of like what it means for the culture of like the industry, because the MCU, like that, it's like 10-15 years, right, that it's been in the zeitgeist and we've been talking about the MCU and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all of this and the Infinity saga. That's gonna be there for a long time. But that's still a ton of movies that you have to get through to say you've truly completed that saga. It's not quite as simple as Star Wars. And Star Wars has been around for 50 freaking years. It is a multi-generational thing that transcends simply just going to the theaters. It's more of a lived experience versus just a tiny fandom. I don't know, sorry, Marvel fandom, but like Marvel fandom. Not to say it's not any less important to those people, but it's like I just feel like Star Wars, given the generational aspect of it, Marvel has a long ways to go before we even consider them in the same breath. So sure, burnout, whatever, but it's about
Different
these
kind of
projects. Yeah, how significant are these projects? And I am so excited for Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm so excited for Starfighter. But the news about the hunt for Ben Solo confirmed to me what I need in my Star Wars movies. They have to feel. There just has to be that thing in your chest that you can't really describe, but you know it when you feel it when you are talking about a Star Wars film. It can be the worst Star Wars film in the world for you. If it's Attack of the Clones, if it's The Last Jedi, if it's The Rise of Skywalker, I don't know, but you have to have some sort of, and you know it when you feel it, and Mandalorian Grogu is not going to be that. It could be a great movie. Like, we could have a lot of fun with it. I'm super excited for it. But in no way, if they announce tomorrow that The Hunt for Ben Solo comes out in theaters in December of 2028, I'm telling you right now, that jumps instantly to the top of my excitement list for anything. And it's not even close because of the way that impacts the saga, the way that impacts how we view the entire realm of Star Wars, the entire galaxy, how that hits on every single fan. That connects. It's a generational connection that movie would have to everyone that's come before it, and building that for the future. I'm not saying that Star Wars can't capture that again. I believe it can. Like, maybe a movie like Starfighter can be like a reset or something really exciting that can be like a cultural phenomenon again. But I don't want to lose that special, nature with Star Wars and what it is. So I kind of like the idea that we have one Star Wars movie coming out next year. We have our animation show, and then we have our live action show. And like we don't have like 2 or 3 live action series coming out. We don't have 2 or 3 animations. Like, there's not like this, slate of every month there's the new thing in Star Wars. And I am very much okay with that. I hope that we bring back the movies every other year. I think that's plenty of time for me to get excited for Star Wars. Like, give me a year in between, take 2 years in between. but 6 years, not enough. But give me like those special events. I would rather have 3 more special Star Wars events in my life, in my whole life. I'd rather have 3 just iconic special Star Wars events in my life than have 20, run of the mill. I'm going to go, cash my, ticket to see the next Marvel film, right? Like I would, rather have 3 great experiences that I'm going to remember forever and pass down to my kids and their kids versus, having 20 average times. And that's what I hope, that we don't end up in a place where we're just creating the content for the sake of creating the content. And that's why I almost even like, oh, just give me the more content. Like, no, give me the story.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, like the part of me, like I said, you can't have too much ice cream, but if you just eat ice cream, you're not going to be feeling very good. It's going to lose a little bit of its appeal at some point. So to have something to look forward to, like you said, something that, like you said, that they take their time with, that's special. And that's how you get, like, Force Awakens, I think, is still the biggest box office domestic, as far as like, as far as tickets domestically.
Have you ever looked at like the numbers? Have you guys looked at like how quickly it got there too? Like, have you ever looked at that? Like, it is insane how quickly it went. Like, it was so fast. It hit $1 billion. It was like a record for how fast it hit $1 billion. And then that 2 billion came in. It was insane. Like, domestically, it was a phenomenon unlike anything I have ever experienced.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't actually realize that it had gone so fast. I definitely was not keeping up with numbers back then. Yeah, I think you have a good point, Tyler. Like, I want the experience to be special. I don't want to be going to. I remember, like, even back in the past couple of years, I would be walking around a mall, and like every couple of months, there's a poster for a new Marvel movie coming out, and I don't want Star Wars to feel like that, where it's like Doctor Strange, and then there's this, and then it's that. Like, here's
the thing. I don't, like you said, I don't want to go to the movie. Like you mentioned, there's the next Marvel movie poster. I don't want to go see the Star Wars movie and be like, well, if this one doesn't work out, I got the next one coming up. So I want to go into the Star Wars movie going like, oh my gosh, like this has to be great because the next one's going to be a few years away. Like I need this to just just hit hard.
And you were saying like 1 year apart. I like the, once every 3 years, 2 years apart. That's the way the AOT was, the prequel trilogy. Like, I'm fine with that. That's kind of the model that like has worked thus far. And I'm good with that. Like, we got time. Like, take your time to make a good movie.
Yeah. I like to, like, it's funny because a lot of people, like, old guys like me remember this, but when after that time between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi was the longest 3 years of my life. Because it was like, and we didn't have obviously the internet, we didn't have a lot of sources out there that like, is Darth Vader really his father? Is that true what he said? Is he lying? And had all that time to build it up in our head, like what we wanted or what we thought it could be. And so it's kind of nice to have that. I remember, like, just you talk about countdowns. I remember like writing down at a notebook, and I'd write down how many days until it was there. And it was just, yeah, I mean, it's nice. Like I said, it's, you talked about the industry has changed. So it's tough. Like Disney is a studio when it's all said and done. They want to make money. They want to return on their investment. But as we, saying, like, we look at The Force Awakens and how the anticipation for that could not have been higher. So it's like, look how fast that made $1 billion. Like all the, however you feel about the sequel trilogy, I think they all made $1 billion, unless I'm mistaken. So, eventually, you could do.
It's one of those things where you have,
but
you have a finite amount of money for different projects, right? Like you can't just say, oh, we're gonna do all these different things, and not to like crap on certain shows or certain movies, right? But it just kind of wonder, like, did we need to allocate our resources and our people all these different directions, and instead have like more of a unified focus of like, this is the story we want to tell, and we're going to devote our resources to making sure these stories are great, like the Rise of Skywalker being like rushed. Like, what, I just feel like a lot of the things that happen with the sequel trilogy, if we had just slowed down, I think it was like, we got to get these movies out here, we got to do it right now. And like Solo, think about all the production problems with Solo that took place, and having to fit these timelines, because they were trying to do these Star Wars movies every single year. Like, they wanted a Star Wars movie every single year, instead of saying what's the story we want to tell, and taking our time to make sure that story is done right, and we allow it time. Instead, it's like, we got to get this one out this year, that boom boom boom, and then, oh my gosh, Solo doesn't do so well, we got to reverse course, we have to retreat, we have to react and be very reactionary here, and we're done with these like random movies, we're going to go strictly into streaming, and we're going to go streaming. And I think that the lesson that needs to be learned from this is that you need to make sure that you are buttoned up in your movie department, and you are creating these really special experiences for people. Because I am perfectly fine with movies happening every year, to some, like every once in a while, having that like bonus movie that takes place the next year, because as long as we're not spreading ourselves too thin. Because the Rogue One was amazing. Rogue One coming in right as like this perfect movie to just sit there in between episodes 7 and 8. Like, it was just amazing that we had that movie that was just there, and then it tied me over before episode 8. But I remember I was still just frothing at the bit here, trying to get episode 8 trailers or any sort of news for that. And I will tell you this, that the amount of theorizing that I did with Luke at the lunch table in college, when we were getting like Chick-fil-A on a Tuesday afternoon, talking about, The Last Jedi, or talking about what the Rise of Skywalker was going to be. As much as I love The Mandalorian, and as much as I'm excited for like a movie like that, or as much as I enjoy some of these shows, I'm not doing that for like a show, like these shows, or like the Mandalorian movie. Like, I'm doing that for the movies, the projects that feel like they're going to resonate in your soul in a way that is different from anything else. And there are bits and pieces of Star Wars medium that do that, in the streaming. Like, Andor clearly is one of those projects, right? There are episodes of The Mandalorian that hit you very hard too. But when you ask someone like what they think of when they think of Star Wars, I don't think there's going to be very many people that are going to immediately go to a streaming show. They're going to talk about, Vader facing Luke, and Luke, throwing the lightsaber away. They're going to go straight to the Battle of the Heroes on like Mustafar. They're going to see, Rey summoning the lightsaber on, Starkiller Base. Those are the type of things that people, I believe, resonate with the most. And we need to make sure as we're moving forward, because what I'm worried about, and this is like a deep fear that I have with Star Wars moving forward, is that they are going to try, because they are so reactionary, that streaming has not, they've gotten like this bad word of mouth on some of their shows. They got to get these movies up and going. And I am worried that they're going to be very reactionary and try to cheapen the product that they give us in order to just create more of something. And then if something doesn't work, they're just going to pull the rug out completely from under us and say, yeah, we're just done. We're done for a while. Like, we're not going to try to do something right now. And this is a big fear of mine, because they have shown to be so reactionary ever since things started to go a little haywire with The Last Jedi. I think when they bought Star Wars, they thought it was a bulletproof thing. Like, even after the reactions of the prequels, about that time was when the prequels were starting to get pretty popular, as people were getting a little older, like 10 years. Yeah, 10 years removed, and revisionist history, like everyone's like, oh, the prequels are the best. Like, we love the prequels. And that wasn't the case. And I really believe they were like, oh, we're just going to cash this. Like, this is going to be the cash cow easily, and there's not going to be any problems. And here we are today.
It's interesting to
Really
see how when Mandalorian Grogu comes out and then Starfighter, what lessons have they learned, right? And I guess everything going forward. I mean, Andor was a huge hit for them. I mean,
Correct.
it was nominated. I think probably very close with getting the Emmy for Best Drama Series. It probably would have been if it was a race. It probably would have come in second. I feel, and so it's a huge hit for them. I mean, yeah, we can go into that. We've done it, I know, ad nauseum already. But like, I'm curious to see when the movies come out, what lessons have they learned?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. It's an interesting lineup to have a show that that's becoming a movie, and then a completely new movie. And it's funny how we talk about it again, The Hunt for Ben Solo, how that would have fit into their plans, because you imagine that would have come out probably 20. I forget when the script was turned in. I don't know if they gave a timeline, but probably like it would have come out a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just interesting. It's like, sometimes you wish you could be a fly on the wall just to see. I just want to know what those conversations were, because I find it fascinating.
Right.
Were they trying to course correct? But I'm hoping, like, I feel like the vibes are much better after Andor. And we could segue probably into, I know it's getting late, we could probably segue into the discussion about Visions, but
No, screw it. I'm doing next week.
All right, sounds good.
Let's just keep going. I mean, we're at 51. Let's just keep going.
I feel like the vibes are getting better. I don't know if it's just me, and I know that there's a nice little space now for we haven't been given anything since Andor really, other than obviously Visions and some the Lego special and things like that. But I think that the hunger is back, and I think maybe to me it's making more sense to go with the Mandalorian and Grogu. I feel like they could get a win there. I feel like it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but it really does depend. I wonder what is Grogu going to be? Forget even the Mandalorian. Is Grogu going to be what draws the casual people into the theater?
What gets the kids.
Yeah.
It's what gets families.
So business-wise, it makes sense. I'm just curious to see. But like you said, if they said, all right, we're putting Hunt for Ben Solo back on the docket, that would, like you said to me, it would rise to the top of most anticipated movie.
Luke, I'm gonna ask Luke a question now, because of the three of us, I guarantee you that Luke is more in the weeds of Star Wars Online than I think anyone is, because the amount of things he uncovers in his detective work if I ask him a question is insane, or like the things he says to me. So I have a theory, and this is a theory / a weird feeling, and I just kind of want to throw it to Luke and get your response. And it is that before the Hunt for Ben Solo story became such a thing, I was with Tom, and I felt like we were in this great place, right? We're this amazing place where we have this easy gap, and I wasn't worried about the Mandalorian and Grogu at all, because I'm like, okay, people don't even know it's a movie. 3 months before the movie, like it'll be everywhere, and people will know about it. Like Grogu's gonna be running around theaters everywhere, and they're gonna have all the Disney marketing with. Like, I'm not worried about it at all. Hunt for Ben Solo happens. Boom, boom, boom. This is like a big thing. Star Wars fans are united in a way that we haven't seen, right? Oddly enough, it makes me feel a little antsy, and I'm a little nervous, because we all know that the Mandalorian Grogu does feel like this. It's like Jon Favreau was the only one that could get a movie going, because they were struggling so bad to get something going. So it's like, we're going to force this to become a movie just because we have to get something else. It felt a little desperate. And I was okay with that, because I'm like, we do need a movie. It's been a long time, and this could be a really fun one-off story. But for whatever reason, I feel a little antsy right now, because I like this Hunt for Ben Solo thing, I think has awakened something. The Force has awakened, right, in Star Wars fans, and that feeling of what a true, just like I mentioned before, like you feel it in your chest. Star Wars movie, I just wonder, is that going to be there in May? Like, is that going? It makes me a little nervous. And I know Luke is like so in there online and all over the place. And I'm not talking about me. I know that the day before Mando and Grogu comes in, I'm going to have to, the day it comes out, I'm taking a day off of school because I want to make sure that I am, fully, ready. I'm not going to be tired. I'm going to get my morning workout in, eat, a nice lunch, get a little nap in, whatever I need to be fully refreshed and ready to go. But I want to know, because Luke, I think you're just so, in it, that I think you might have a pulse of that more so than I do, who I'm not online a ton, I'm not talking to people over the age of 14 very much from my Monday to Friday.
I appreciate that you think that I am super in the weeds and in the know. I will try to give my best here, but I do see a lot. I have a group chat with you, Tyler, that I send some really insane things to that are just funny that I see on Twitter. But I would say that the vibes of The Mandalorian and Grogu that I've kind of picked up on haven't been stellar. And that was before the Hunt for Ben Solo news broke, because the vibes aren't fantastic with a casual audience, that like the streaming show is now getting kind of shoved to the movie, or maybe pulled up to that. And it's like, did it deserve that? Mm-hmm. Maybe. That's kind of up in the air. And then the trailer comes out, and the trailer isn't spectacular, blowing your mind the way it doesn't feel, maybe to the casual fan, that it's living up to a saga film, which, mind you, this is not a saga film. So like, maybe you should have a little bit different expectations. Is maybe my input on that. So I do feel like now, today, November 6th, the vibe is kind of like, it's kind of like died back down again. The trailer came out, Hunt for Ben Solo stuff has like hit, and we're kind of like receding. I don't see a lot of talk about it even still a couple weeks after. And so
see, I see it a lot still. Like, maybe it's just my algorithm, and the way that it's geared for me. I see it a lot. And I just feel like that when every time Dave Filoni is going to be doing one of these Mando and Grogu like press tours, they're either I just have a hard time seeing that if he's not asked questions about the Hunt for Ben Solo, it's because they expressly told them not to ask. And they said, if you ask this question, we are not answering it. So do not ask it. And so it's one of those where, like, we'll never know if that's true. So I look smart either way, because if they don't answer, they told them not to ask, right? So it's just it's not really a fair thing for me to say that. But again, I don't think that's going to go away. I think if anything, as the next Star Wars movie comes out, it's going to resurface again, because people are going to be like, oh, this is the next Star Wars movie. Did you know about the one that was going to be made but didn't? And it has to do with, the two biggest characters still around in Star Wars. I just don't see it. And that's why I feel antsy, because I'm wondering, is that going to like boil over into that? Into the Mandalorian Grogu? Is it going to, because I've always wondered what a box office for Mandalorian Grogu looks like, but I don't know. Like this right here is because everything else maybe just lacks a little weight.
Question for you. How would you feel? What would your vibes be if I told you, hey, magically they're actually swapping the release dates? Starfighter's coming out first, and then the next year Mandalorian and Grogu comes out. Does that change your mind on vibes? Would you like that?
I'd be terrified.
Yeah,
like, why? Because obviously this is impossible, because there's zero chance they're not doing that. All of the post-production. Yeah. Let's say in a hypothetical world they did that. I'd be terrified, because I'm like, we're pushing that Mando story back another year when I'm already kind of like, we've been in the Mandoverse for so long. It's like, I'm ready for some conclusion in the Mandoverse, and next year's supposed to be when I get most of that conclusion. And now we're like pushing forward Starfighter, and I'm like, is that a good thing? Now we're rushing another movie, and no, so I'd be terrified. Like, I would be absolutely, pissing my pants over here, going to the theater. I am so excited for Starfighter again. And like when we saw Ryan Gosling and Sean Levy, I'm like, this could be the movie that gets all the casual moviegoers for Star Wars back in the theater, because you have A-lister, you have a director that's super popular right now. You have I think Starfighter's a catchy name that's gonna like keep growing with the fans. I think you're gonna have a very fast-paced thriller level trailer when that does come out, and it has the potential to be something that really gets people back together. But I'm telling you, like, the more I sit with this Hunt for Ben Solo stuff, the more I just think about how frustrating it is that we don't have that, and it's really hard for me to move on. And I'm like, the excitement that I would get from them simply announcing that might be more than the excitement I would get from seeing both of those movies.
You know, one thing for me, yeah, it's interesting because these are the two movies that are on the docket that we have coming up, right? And I obviously both of them I'm going to be there opening day for. I want to see them. I love the Mandalorian show. Season 2 especially is my favorite, and I want to see what happens next. So I'm really invested. But I don't think. And I think Ben Solo's story seems to be dying down because there hasn't really been any new developments. There haven't been any new quotes from anyone. But I agree with Tyler that I feel it's going to be all over Q&As when they have them for Mando and Grogu. It's going to be at Celebration. I mean, they're probably like they do that. What's that character that they do that run? With the ice cream maker.
Oh, Will Hood.
There you go. There's going to be a Ben Solo type thing at Celebration that fans are going to probably put together. It's going to keep coming up. And if Mando and Grogu doesn't deliver, it's going to be twice as loud, I feel. And I think
they're going to be having, it's going to be rough.
Lucasfilm has an opportunity. Yeah, I think Lucasfilm has an opportunity to at least address it, because, I feel, and I don't know, like you said, it could be the algorithm. I feel like more people than not wanted it, or would be excited, or at least intrigued about it, and they want to get people back to the theaters to see the theatrical film. So. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of years to see how it goes, but I don't think the fans are going to forget about the Hunt for Ben Solo.
Oh, this is anecdotal experience, but I do think, like, I have one of my best friends here in Orlando, like one of my closest friends, is a Disney Star Wars hater. Oh my gosh, he is a Disney Star Wars hater. Like, he loves Andor, he enjoys bits and pieces, he's watched a lot of shit, but like, sometimes, we have gone at it. Like, we have dropped the gloves and gone at it, right? Like, it is, but even him, when I talked to him about like this Hunt for Ben Solo concept, and I said, yeah, you had Adam Driver really wanted to come back, and he had Steven Soderbergh that was going to be directing. I was talking to he's a Disney Star Wars, like, I'm telling you, he's a hater. He was like, I would be like, I'm intrigued, like, I want to see it. Like, he goes, I'm excited to see that. And I genuinely think that that's where the fandom is. Like, even the people that maybe feel the strongest against, what happened with the saga, they're back in for that movie. And that would be something we need. Now, what happens after it would come out is whatever. But yes, exactly. I just think that maybe, Luke, and maybe the reason why you keep questioning me on this is because I've spent the last 5 years talking about how much we need to move away from the Skywalker saga. And that's been like a big thing that I've been harping on. But a lot of that is I've always wanted more Rey, but not calling it like episode 10, do something more with Rey. And I was always operating under the assumption, like everyone else, that Adam Driver no longer wanted anything to do with Star Wars, and he was dead.
Right.
Exactly.
And that Kylo Ren, Ben Solo was dead. So like getting this news that he is wanted to come back so much that he actively put together a movie that was greenlit, ready to go, to provide more depth and to the story of probably the most interesting character. It has me 100% reversing course in a way I did not think would ever be possible, and it's simply because of like everything that we've learned. But it's the classic thing. I tell my kids at school, right? Like if I allowed them to pick what we're doing tomorrow, like, we're going to, like, you guys can have a choice day. You can pick whatever you want. Like they'll be excited and they're gonna like look forward to that. But their emotional level would not nearly match it as if tomorrow I go to school and I'm like, hey guys, I was going to give you guys a free day today. They're like, oh, but I decided instead we're gonna walk the track in a single file line. Like they're gonna be pissed because I told them about something they were going to have, and then I just took it away from them without giving them a little bit of notice until after the fact. Like it's when you get something taken away from you, it definitely changes how you maybe feel a little bit. But I think maybe that's how it's like the best way to describe my course change here.
One quick thing, I just see what you guys think. I know that there's rumored that, by the way, thanks everyone for the comments. A lot of great comments coming in. I know that there's rumors that Simon Kinberg is working on a trilogy.
It's not a rumor because Kathleen
Kennedy
mentioned it in her interview.
Okay.
She did, like in the spring, I believe, when there was all the rumors that came out. She had Vanity Fair. She said that he was providing a draft of the trilogy in June, and then they will be moving forward from there.
Okay,
so there is supposedly a full trilogy from Simon Kinberg that they have a draft for that is being worked on as we speak, I would assume, already out there in the world.
And what I heard is that it will not continue the Skywalker saga, I believe. It would be completely new.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if with all of this Ben Solo talk, if they're going to rethink that. I wonder, unless he's too far along with the development. Like, it's just interesting. And I think it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of exciting to think about what's going to happen in the next few years, because as we said, that story's not going away. I don't know if they're just going to make it go away. I don't think the fans are going to give it up that easy. But it's interesting to see how going forward, because this could be, like I said, this could be a big move for them, saying, even for Kathleen Kennedy to come out and say, if you guys want it, let us know. And, or bring it up, keep those letters and coming in or whatever. But it'll be interesting to see how I think they should really acknowledge it. Because like I said, if they don't, it would be kind of weird. And the thing is they come off looking
tough though. But that's tough for them to do, because of the fact that they would then be saying, yeah, we really wanted to, and then this guy up here, he said, no, it is weird when you get into like probably the politics of all of that with the company. And so like there's some of this subversive messaging going on. If you mentioned like Hunt for Ben Solo, like what's going to be announced in the next few years, because we think of Starfighter's in production, Mandalorian comes out, you have Ahsoka, there's a live action show up for grabs once Ahsoka's done. And then at Star Wars Celebration, for the 50th, you bet your ass, like they're going to drop some massive announcements. Like there's going to be some massive announcements. Like, we're going to celebrate Star Wars, but you're lying to me if you're telling me that they don't want that to be the event of the decade for Star Wars fan get together with, here is celebrating everything that's happened, and here's what you should be excited about for the next, several years, and you have to stick the landing there. Luke, what could they theoretically, like, this is, like, we're just going to play a fun hypothetical game, because why the hell not? Like, what could they announce? Because Tom mentioned it, like, he's excited, but like the story's not going anywhere. What on earth could they announce, though, that generates excitement in the fandom more so than the Hunt for Ben Solo, I feel like, in a couple years from now? Like, what could they possibly move forward? I can only think of like two things, maybe.
My mind is running on how, because I'm kind of curious. I haven't done research on like how the Lord of the Rings trilogy was like marketed, but like if you could market like, hey guys, the Simon Kinberg trilogy like is like, we have the trilogy planned out. I feel like a lot of people, when you talk about the sequel trilogy, people are coming around to it nowadays, but like the biggest gripe you'll hear is like, oh, they should have planned it out better. They should have had a cohesive story from the start. Hey guys, we have that. We heard you guys didn't like that about the sequel trilogy. We have that. We've got a trilogy built. It's happening new part of the timeline. It's not between 6 and 7. It's not between 3 and 4. Like, it's past 9. Let's do this. We're opening up. There's no like guardrails on us. Like, we're going new. We're doing it. I think that would be really exciting that like we have planned this whole thing out. We have this for you. We're ready. We're doing it. I don't know exactly. I'm not going to try to pitch you what that story would be. I'm not a writer and I can't really do that off the top of my head, but like, I think it'd be nice to know they have listened. They have tried to course correct. They've tried to make a really, really solid, even better story than they've made in the past couple of years.
But you, Tom?
Yeah, I originally I was saying like they're gonna go all in on Starfighter and Celebration in Anaheim.
It'll be big. Like, it'll be big. I mean, it's gonna be big. I mean, you got Ryan Gosling.
I mean, they did it this year. They talked about Starfighter, even though the next movie was Mandalorian and Grogu. So for the 50th anniversary, I'm sure they're going to go big. And I think that we're going to probably be getting news throughout the year too, because they said there's going to be a lot of surprises in 2027 for the 50th anniversary. So, yeah, I mean, I think if everything stays on track. See, the thing is when they were doing the saga films, you knew what was coming next. Okay, this was Celebration 2015. Okay, it's Force Awakens. We know that Episode 8 is the next Celebration. Well, we know that Episode 9, but because of all of their track record of cancellations and issues with films getting made, it's hard to, it used to be what happened at Celebration was like laying out the blueprint, and they really haven't done, or they haven't been consistent with that. So I don't know, but I feel like the thing that worries me is that it's going to be like, everyone says that about Solo. It's like, we didn't want this movie, or we didn't ask for this movie. If everyone is shouting that we want Ben Solo and they're like, well, we got this, that's
why it has to be two things. There's only two things. All right.
So why don't you go ahead? I know
there's only two things it can be. There's only two things. And there's only two things it can be, because you can't do something with any of those characters because it will make you, like, if you're trying to get people to forget about the Hunt for Ben Solo and get people to completely move on from it, you can't do the Rey and Finn story. You can't do this story. If you got to have all of them in there or not, you can't just do one.
Right.
There's only two things you can do. The first is you bring out, Simon Kinberg has mapped out the next 3 movies, a trilogy taking place hundreds of years in the future. Hundreds of years. We're taking a massive time jump. The Jedi Order has been rebuilt completely, and you're going to have a revamped looking Jedi Order. It's not going to look the same as it did in the prequels or anything like that. It's going to be a new look. You can unveil like new looks of that, some ideas from that. And there is a new galactic threat, like something brand new. Like, we can, there are so many species and legend stories of, threats to, Force users, threats to the galaxy. You provide something that is mind-bending and brand new, where you have we are starting this brand new saga. You bring Simon Kinberg out. You have, directors line, like, this is who is directing this. We have the story completed, and you talk about this new threat, and it is existential, it's different, it's unique, and you have maybe like a little teaser to go, because we've learned about this maybe before, or something like that, like is there, because it's so far in the future. Then you're going to have a year and a half, 2 years of people theorizing what could the galaxy look like 300 years from now or 500 years from now. And then what you've done is you've allowed yourself plenty of time to go back and fill any gaps in that time that you want. Because now we have all this time to play with. We have 100 years to play with, or 50 years to play with, because we've gone so far. We can always go back, and we don't have to be so worried about it. So we go for, or, and this is again, This would be, you have to nail the land. You have to stick the landing with all of these, but easily Darth Malgus on your screen, the Sith Empire, and you take us back to the Old Republic. You have the Jedi Sith War that takes place, or you do a Jedi, Mandalorian conflict that exists in, back in the Old Republic timeline, and you say like that is what our next series. We have 3 movies, like maybe the Kinberg trilogy is actually, going back in time. We're all wrong. It's not in the future. It's actually, back. And you take people again, thousands of years removed from what we've been accustomed to, but it still feels like Star Wars. You're not having to worry about the questions of like, is this character going to show up? Is this character going to show up? Because you kind of know some of the characters. We have plenty of room to play with. You have, some Legends diehards that are going to be, in your YouTube comments here that you got to, make sure that you are at least honoring what has happened before. But again, that generates you the theorizing, the talking, like what are we going to see? What might they change? What are they going to stick with? What are these fight sequences going to look like? It will be the first time in Star Wars history we'll ever see, more than a couple of red blades on our screen at one time, because we've only ever had Maul fighting. We've only ever had Palpatine and then, fighting. Like there's only been like one red lightsaber, in a movie. Here you could have dozens of red lightsabers. You could have, more than one. So like it would absolutely, I believe, add, more, to this. So that's where I think there's only 2 ways to go with it. You tell this epic saga of the Old Republic, or we're gonna fast forward way, way in the future, and we create this, because I think that the beauty of Star Wars, there's endless stories. Like in Legends, you have all of these, I think of like the Rakatan like invaders, right? Like they could use the Force, and they were these like Force users that were just absolutely wiping people out, and then mysteriously vanished because their ability to use the Force was diminishing or something. You have the Yuzon Bong in Legends. Like you can easily create massive threats to the galaxy without just being like, who is our new Sith Lord? And in ways that would galvanize Star Wars fans. But if you really want to go to the Sith well, you have to go to the Old Republic. I think both of those things are just locks to get people excited.
I think you make a great point. And one of the things we were going to discuss visions. We'll do that next week. But the being unburdened by canon to a point where it cripples you in your storytelling. If you go that far ahead or that far behind, behind is a little bit tough, because there are some stories from that time. So like you said, you want to honor that. But if you go ahead, you could really do whatever you want. So it does give you that freedom. So I think you make a great point there, because I mean, we could discuss, the eras that have already been explored, and it is a little bit limiting as far as what you can do. I mean, I feel like I really want to know more about the New Republic era, and I feel like they haven't really hit a stride with that yet, in a good way. I want to know a lot about like what's going on, that as the First Order is coming to power or like being formed, and I feel like I said, we haven't seen enough of that yet, and it hasn't really been explored. However, the opposite of that is that we kind of know what happened, so it takes a little bit away from it too. So if we do go to an era that's unexplored, the sky is the limit.
But we know the ending of Rogue One. We know how like they're gonna steal the plans. They're going to find a way to get it out. But that, we know in Andor, like he has to survive, and we know that Luthen, he's gonna die. Like we know these things are gonna happen. You can tell, and like with the like, you could do it, and it could be incredible. And then I'll throw it to you, Luke. But I'm gonna have to disagree with Manslayer. He's like, if we go too far in the future, we're gonna repeat ourselves, doomed to pass. You can tell the new stories in the future without repeating like what has already happened. Like I could view the Skywalker saga as the story of how the Skywalkers themselves were able to bring balance to the Force by ending the threat that the Sith posed on the galaxy, the disease, the sickness that was the Sith on the galaxy that had been pervasive and existing for tens of thousands of years, that have plagued every single inch of the galaxy and what is good. Like the story of the Skywalkers was what was able to finally eliminate that and bring peace to the galaxy. And you could tell, you could go way in the future, and it's like, here's our new story, and this is our new family, these new people. There is now a new threat. Something new has come up, because just like every story, ever, like there's always going to be a new challenge. There is, like, just in life, there's always going to be a new villain that's going to try to destroy what is good and what has been created, and there has to be someone else to take up the hero's call. There has to be someone else to take up the mantle. There has to be someone else ready to take on that fight. And if the Skywalkers are now gone, like, who is going to be the person to do that? Like, what Jedi are going to step up? What people are going to step up and do that?
Yeah, I really liked your point about the Old Republic. I think if you're going to do another major story in live action where you've got red lightsaber swinging, I think you should just go for it. Go for the Old Republic. That's where there's going to be a lot of that happening. People want lightsabers. Andor was an amazing show, but like it was hard for a surprisingly, large percentage of people to like latch onto immediately, because like there's no lightsabers, there's no Luke Skywalker, there's no Force. Like, it's an amazing show, but it would take Star Wars fans a little bit of stuff to catch on to. So I think the Old Republic is a good one. I don't want to see Sith Lords every story. And I think we've seen a good deal of Sith in the prequels and in the original trilogy, and we saw Sith adjacent people in the sequels. So like, I'm kind of good for the time being seeing red lightsaber overlords. If you're going to do it one more time in here, like recent history, let's do Old Republic. I do love the far in the future. Like, I don't know about 500 years. I don't think I would push it that far, but I would say 100 years past Rise of Skywalker.
1,000 years.
I think I would like to try to like parallel the storytelling of like Palpatine consolidated all his. I guess that's the kind of the same. Like, I would like to see a galaxy that has like moved beyond the need of an overarching government for every like planet. Like, every planet kind of like is their own government, and they don't need to have a connected like core planet or something. And so the bad guy, the bad force, is someone who is trying to consolidate power and trying to.
Well, I like the idea of like, we fast forward far enough to where you have like this the ability to say that there has truly been peace. There's truly been serenity for a while. And then what happens when a galaxy that's been at peace for so long and has forgotten about war, has forgotten about the disease of the past, is confronted with, what seemingly is an unstoppable force coming from the unknown regions. We've opened up other galaxies at this point. What happens at that moment? Like, kind of like how the High Republic, there's been no war for a long time, and the High Republic, it only takes place over a couple of years. And so, but, the Jedi, being vastly unprepared for something like that. Like, they reacted and they were proactive at times, and they were well equipped to handle it, but it was like, who was going to answer that call? Because there had been peace for so long, and finally there was someone out there trying to disrupt that peace and be a disruptor. Like, what happens when the galaxy has forgotten and has been at peace? But it's not like forgotten as in we've got lazy and there's just no one cares anymore, but it's like we've truly reached a new level. What happens when that is disrupted by something other than just pure corruption within the society you're in? Like, something else has come in, and then what happens? Where do the fractures exist?
Yeah, it's a good twist.
But we'll see. Like, I think that there's the thing about Star Wars, we always say this, like, it is the way that it is easily, I think it goes beyond the saga, and I think George would say that too. Like Star Wars is an anthology that spans tens of thousands of years in any direction you want to go, and there is and it is like an endless amount of stories that we can tell. And I'm excited to see more. I think of a couple of quick reflections on the last 13 years one more time. Was I never would have thought that Andor would be something like that. Like imagine in 2013, Andor, one of my favorite shows, maybe my favorite show of all time, right? It's like it's up there for me.
Yep, me too.
And it's up there for me. Like I think of shows like other than like not reality TV shows, like Survivor's like my favorite weekly binge, right? Like get my Wednesday Survivor fix in. But like if we're talking about like prestige TV, I think of like Game of Thrones, and then I think of like Andor, like my two favorite shows of all time. And if you had told me in 2013 that one of my new favorite shows of all time was going to be a 2-season series about a guy who dies in a movie about how they get the Death Star plans for episode 4. And it's a prequel to the prequel movie for that. I would have been like, you're going to have to explain that to me again. And here we are. And it's like, it makes perfect sense. But anyway, so there's that one. Just streaming Star Wars shows in general is something that is still mind-boggling to think about. Like, 2013, that was not a concept that I was thinking about, like live action Star Wars shows that I would just turn on and watch whenever I wanted to. That wasn't
a concept when and Lucas was working on, what was the name of it again?
The Underworld or something.
Underworld?
I believe so, yeah. And it was
reportedly cost like $60 million an episode to make or something.
Yeah, it seemed really expensive. And
let him cook.
Yeah, it was like really exciting to think that would be coming out, and it just never, unfortunately, saw the light of day. I know a few things have been floating around online, but yeah, but to actually get that now, and it's almost like I take it for granted at some point, like that was a real, like when the Mandalorian started, that was like so like we've had Clone Wars and because Rebels was after the acquisition, I believe. But yeah, I mean, just to have that in Mandalorian was it was unique at the time, and I know it is still special, I think, when those shows come out, but it seems like commonplace at this point, like that. Oh yeah, it's another show that's going to be on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
but that was huge.
Yeah,
so good. Any other final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to the future, and to me, sometimes it's like sports. It's like sometimes, you have your up days and your down days, and but overall, we're getting some we're getting some great stuff, and it's exciting that it's continuing, because there was a time when I thought it was over with. And it's weird now to think that way, but like I remember after Revenge of the Sith just being so disappointed that's it.
Love you, Manslayer.
Manslayer, he's so consistent. He's always here every week, so we appreciate you. But yeah, like that it's continuing is really great. That Disney kind of, for better or worse, and whatever you think, they set it up in a way that it's going to perpetuate. So I'm thankful for that.
Luke made it.
I was about to mention this, RG. I am at 16%. So we are.
So we got another 40. We got another 20 minutes.
Hanging on by a thread, RG. I thank you.
Extended episode
for worrying about me.
we are running. Oh my gosh!
Luke's laptop's been around. It's like, I have been in this fight since I was 6 years old. It's like this laptop's battery's like, what have I sacrificed for this pod? Everything.
It's actually the one I'm taking to. It's my work laptop, and so it's plugged in all day, every day, and so the battery is fried.
Yeah.
So
that thing is just going nuts. That's incredible.
It's the Falcon.
No, but yeah, like Manslayer, like you always appreciate it. As always, send me like whatever thoughts you have afterwards. I'll head down to continue the chat on Discord. and always continue to chat whenever. Also, I have an announcement to make.
Oh, an hour 30 in. We have an announcement. It works.
My Kindle is alive.
The TikTok worked.
It's alive. I got some advice from people on TikTok, and it works. I am functioning again. I am so excited. Tomorrow I'm gonna make a video. Manslayer, I have no idea what it was. I just literally plugged it in and like did some like advice. Like took the thing out, put it back in, like recharged a little bit, put a different plug in, put it over there with a high powered like charger, one of my higher powered ones, and then plugged it in, turned it face down, and have not looked at it for 2 days. And then I came home tonight. I was like, I give it 2 days, and I'm like, it is working. Let's go. So tomorrow I'm gonna post a celebratory Kindle TikTok. Oh boy. Anyway, all right. Well, anything you guys are looking forward to before next week?
Maybe I'll finish Rebuild the Galaxy by next week. Ugh. Haven't gotten around to that one either.
I need to watch that. I will hopefully, we'll say like hopefully we'll be able to watch Visions by next week. So I will say this: I have no class next Thursday night. My professor canceled our class so we could work on our projects. So maybe instead of working on my project, I can watch Visions. If I haven't watched anything, I can binge some Visions before.
I'll send you my picks if you have just a few minutes. So
yes.
I'll text you some of my picks and we could talk about it.
Yes. And then maybe next week do that. We watch the Visions. I'm looking forward to it. Luke and I have already recorded episode 54 of the Star Wars Timeline Show. The Timeline Show. I got the thumbnail for it. I'll just put it out over the weekend. So be looking for that over the weekend. I'll put this out, on our podcasting channels tomorrow. So there's that. And then, of course, we have the middle school spaghetti dinner fundraiser tomorrow night to support the choir and band. So Janelle and I will be making our way to supporting the younglings tomorrow. I have informed them that she likes cookies, so make sure she has the good chocolate chip cookies. We'll see if the young students, they have assured me that that will happen. Last year, I finesse my relationships with the children to get an extra plate of spaghetti for free. So see if I can do that again. But anyway, for Light and Life, everyone, remember, we are all looking forward to another great 13 years. Until next time.